Hey guys, this is Nate again, back with another audio commentary for WCReplays.com, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my current take on the Undead versus Orc matchup, which is not all that different from what it used to be, but basically this is what I do, and I pretty much obliterate almost all the Orcs I play against. So let's go ahead and get this replay opened up. Players are me, slide.viet as Undead versus Genius as Orc. I'm currently level 17 Undead player, and Genius is a level 19 Solorer, but he's a level 26 RT. I think he's like top 10 on Azeroth. So he's a pretty good player, and he has won quite a few tournaments. So let's go ahead and pause this game for 15 seconds. So let's go ahead and unpause the game in 3, 2, 1, unpause. And go ahead and put the game under my vision with Fog of War on. So let's take a look at my base setup. Now I'm going to be going for Fiends. You really have to go to Fiends. You have to go for Fiends versus Orc. Believe me, I've tried, and the majority of the losses on this account are actually trying to go Ghouls against Orc, which basically it doesn't work out very well because you're forced to switch over to Gargoyles very quickly, and Bat Riders just totally decimate Gargoyles. It's just a complete joke. So it's really not an option. Plus, it's very easy to be towered. Whereas if you go for Fiends, you have a much better chance against a towering Orc. And that's really the only problem I have from Orc at this point is towering. And you know, the rest of the stuff just doesn't work out too well. So I get a late graveyard, but this is because I don't really start building my Fiends too early. And I really prefer this build, which it lets me get 3 Ghouls and a Nerubian Tower and 3 Fiends out before I tech, which means that I'm going to have a nice defense against harassment. I'm not going to get caught teching while I lose a couple Acolytes, and it generally works out pretty well. It's kind of weak in that it's very easy for the Orc player to come in with 2 or 3 Grunts, Spirit Wolves, Farseer, and come right into my base, but if I upgrade Spirit Tower, take with Ghouls off wood, I can generally handle that okay. So this is kind of the best build I have at the moment against Orc using Fiends. So basically it goes Crypt, Ziggurat, Graveyard, Altar, Ghoul, Ziggurat, and so on and so forth. But that awesome new replay thing, you guys can click the statistics on me or whatever, go to the build order, and it'll show you the build order. So that's pretty cool. So now you see that I'm upgrading a Nerubian Tower. This is basically because I pretty much always get harassed by Orc. And notice that placement of the Nerubian Tower. If you guys watched my more recent commentary on Orc, I did more of a outward base placement, where it was very hard for Orc to get into your base. But I'm kind of tending more towards the inner base placement, kind of, because I get towered so much, and it's a little bit easier, I think, to deal with it like that. And so this Nerubian Tower is very important for the Nerubian Tower to be near your Acolytes also, so that you can stop Blade Master harassment if that comes, because it's really annoying to have to upgrade a second tower. And see, he scouted me with a wolf, so I'm fairly sure he's coming to harass me at this point, so I'm not going straight out to creep, kind of hanging around. But that was kind of a waste. So when they send a wolf at you like that, it's very important. I mean, what gives Undead the real advantages here is being able to completely take out the Orc heroes very easily. And you get level 3 Coil, level 3 Nova, that Farseer is gone. And so it's nice to be able to creep, and so that's why the Orc is going to harass you so much. I made a bit of a mistake here in that I tanked with my Death Knight, and since only at 300 hit points, he's going to go right after that, and that really limits what I can do to fend him off. So it's very important to not let your Death Knight get to such low hit points early on. And if you can get a shop, that's always a good idea. But with the build that I'm using, I don't really get it until I'm around 30 food or so. And I just stick to small creep camps, which works out okay, unless this sort of thing happens. So generally it's probably better to actually tank with your Fiends, or at least not let your Death Knight take all the hits. I'm being kind of stupid here, I'm letting my Fiend take some hits here. It's really not necessary, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm buying myself a little bit of time. Now what I should really do is just retreat behind my buildings. Because all I'm doing is losing units here. I should pull my ghouls off my wood, retreat behind my buildings, because you really don't want the orc player in your base. It's also important when you're in this kind of situation with a low hit point hero, low hit point units. You'll see I watch for the Farseer and I click on it a couple of times to see when it hits level 2, because when it hits level 2, it can kill you with chain lightning, so you gotta watch out for that. Now, it's at this point, it's generally just best to target wolves, because it's so easy for the orc player to pull back grunts and so forth that it's really you're not going to actually kill anything, whereas the wolves will give you experience. So I'm just trying to target whatever I can, but the wolves are probably my biggest priority. And you can see now that I'm basically able to keep them out of my base, which is good. I'm going to stop at 5 fiends in order to get a... I go for 6, you'll see here, but then I cancel that. That's because it's actually a bit more valuable to be able to nuke his hero. That extra fiend isn't going to stop him walking to my base, and a lich will. So anyway, now that he's backed off, I just want to creep. That's basically my main goal, is to just level up that Death Knight. And you'll see, and as he complains about this later on in the game, that basically, you know, that high level coil, just orc cannot deal with it. Now, he's being smart, he knows that I'm going to try and creep, and that's clearly the best creep camp for me to go to. So, it's good play on his part, and like, you know, nothing really that I can do on my part, except try and creep whatever I can, really. But now that I've hit tier 2, I can heal up my Death Knight. And I'll be okay. You see, he comes real close here. What he should have done, you saw he got that Naga. He should have sent a wolf ahead or something, grabbed the Naga, and then he could have actually killed my Death Knight. Now I'm putting up a slaughterhouse, and my plan here basically is to just, you know, level up my heroes and kind of see what he does while I tech to tier 3 and go 50-50 food. And probably switch over to mass destroyers. Now I get lazy here, I don't pull that fiend back. But again, I'm just targeting stuff. Now that he's coming in close, I can Nova Coil on his heroes. And I think we trade heroes here, I'm not sure. Again, I'm just pulling out the ghouls whenever I need to. Oh, he doesn't kill my Death Knight. So now he's really in a lot of trouble. Now if he tried to tower me here, it wouldn't have been so easy for me. But now that I've got a decent number of fiends, I got statues coming, and I got my 2 heroes, there's no way he's going to come at me with his 2 intelligence heroes. There's no way he's coming into my base. So now I'm pretty much free to creep. Even if he comes and creep jacks me, I can nuke his units and actually, you know, do okay. So now I have the advantage. And if you turn off Fog of War, you'll see that at his base he's now going to tier 3, and he's putting up a bestiary. But he's really in a lot of trouble. He can't mess with me too much. And I think the best thing for him to do really would be to expand. It would be certainly hard for me to stop an expansion of his, and that's the real problem I have in this matchup. But the fact is, the Undead player in general is going to beat the Orc player if neither person has an expansion and they're just allowed to creep freely. Now, I'm making a mistake, obviously, by not really scouting him particularly effectively, and the best thing to do would probably just be to send a ghoul at his base. I don't even know where his base is, but the best thing would be to just send a ghoul and see what he's doing. Now you notice here, I Nova that Ogre Magi, and I let him walk out of that area, and that means that I'll get that ward he drops, the sentry ward thing. It'll be out of that little corner of trees, which means I'll get a much larger sight radius on it. And that'll actually help me out a little later on, because I'll see him walking by when I wouldn't have seen him otherwise. So clearly, now I'm really doing good. I got the Illyria's Flute of Accuracy, which is like True Shot Aura, plus I got Sentry Wards. Level up my heroes, and I'm going to tier 3. Now I'm staying below upkeep, so I can upgrade a bit. And in general, I wouldn't recommend breaking upkeep too quickly, as it'll pay off later on. Now I see he's just massing grunts. In general, when they're massing grunts, it's not a great idea to keep massing fiends, but to generally just scout them out. Now, if they're going for, you know, grunts, and you see 1 or 2 spirit lodges, it means you're going to want to get destroyers in order to deal with Bloodlust or with Stasis Traps, because that really messes with you. But in this case, since he's getting a Bestiary and getting Wyverns, I can just go a combination of Fiends and Destroyers, and that'll, you know, when I use Absorb Mana, he will not be able to deal with anything I can throw at him, really. And I think this matchup is definitely in Undead's favor, as is Human, Undead versus Human. And Undead is definitely a much stronger race in 1.14 than it was in 1.13, with the exception of Night Elf. Really gives Undead some real problems there. Just the Dryads, Undead, because it's so hard to go Fiends against Night Elf due to Mountain Giants. And Fiends are the natural counter to Dryads, and forces you to really change it around, which is why I end up going Meat Wagons. But anyway, so this game for Undead is really more about just creeping than anything else. And I'm sorry if it's not like the most exciting thing in the world, but I mean, if you want to beat your next Orc opponent, you can get those high level heroes. Even if you start losing the game, you can come back, and that's really the way to stay alive in this game. You see, I still haven't broken Upkeep, but I've put up a second Slaughterhouse, and I'm just continuing to upgrade my Fiends and level up. And that's pretty much all there is to do at this point, and just keep an eye on him. And what I really should be doing again is scouting him and checking for expansions and so forth. And you'll see I see with my Sentry Ward him walking around down there, so I know it's safe to creep. Now, if I were him, I mean, it's not a good thing to just let the Undead player creep like this. I mean, I think he should either try and expand or do something, but he also makes a mistake that he's going for Tauren, but he's got like 2 Wyverns, and you really need more than that to be effective, especially against this many Fiends. They're not going to be useful at all. And I think that although in certain matchups it's very good to mix up your units a lot, what he's doing here is he's not mixing. I mean, he's over mixing really. He's got a Bat Rider, he's got 2, or he doesn't have a Bat Rider. That's a Headhunter, some Shamans, and he's mixing all this up, but he doesn't have an expansion. So all this tech he's doing and all these different buildings aren't really paying off. Now, if he had an expansion, it would be very different. But like as an Undead player, when I go Fiends, my real problem with Fiends is when my opponent gets 6, 7, 8 Wyverns, and it's very hard to deal with that focus fire. But 2 Wyverns is not going to do anything. Plus, he's not upgrading anything. Not the upgrades are all that great anyway, but plus he's gone Tri-Hero, so he's going to be very, very vulnerable to nuke. And all that Bloodlust is just going to feed my Destroyers, which I'm now massing. And what he's doing is not really at all productive for him. All the Grunts are going to be useless. 2 Wyverns don't really do anything. I mean, he doesn't. The best thing, I don't know what he's doing really. Now, if he expands and he can really like mass up these units, he could do something. But I mean, I don't really even see what his game plan is, because he hasn't scouted me anytime recently. He's not trying to counter anything. I mean, it looks like he's just trying to create a diverse army, which is good, but again, it's almost over diversified. And those Grunts are just going to be dead weight for him against the number of Destroyers. You know, 4 or 5 Destroyers, all those Grunts are going to be useless. So anyway, now we get to see the exciting part of the game. Now, what I do here is I just put Web on autocast, and I let my Fiends web down the Wind Riders or Wyverns or whatever, and that'll just limit their mobility. And he's trying to use speeds to go and get in among the Fiends. And unless you use Shockwave, I absolutely would recommend using Warstomp. It's much better, because you can't deal with that. Now, the reason that I turn on my Destroyers, all my statues and Destroyers at once instead of using my Absorb Mana thing that I always do, is because he has so much Bloodlust, they'll just feed them anyway, and it's not really worth the micro in my opinion. It's much more important to get the Impales off and to just keep Nova Coiling that Farseer and Naga. And I don't even need to be next to it, I don't even need to target it. I can just keep Nova Coiling it like I just did here, and it dies. So basically, my microing is just consisting of A-clicking, using Absorb Mana, you know, making sure my Fiends are doing something productive, and just nuking his heroes. And now I basically won the game. And this, I don't know, he's just being careless here, but that's it. So anyway, that's pretty much the end of this game. I hope I haven't bored you guys too much showing you good old Undead cheese kind of. But this is just kind of what I've been doing against against Orc, and I basically have gone, with a couple of exceptions, just about undefeated from like level 11 to level 17, doing stuff like this. And versus Orc, I think I've gone undefeated pretty much. So, I mean, this is how you can kill your next Orc opponent. It's not all that micro-intensive. It's pretty easy, really. And as Genius is saying right now, it's definitely a very, very hard matchup for Orc. Simply because Orc don't really have a proper counter to Destroyers and to Frostworms. And obviously Orc is going to have a hard time with the nuke, but I wouldn't say don't go that try here thing. So as an Orc player, I would recommend just trying to get an expansion off, I guess. I mean, I don't know, man. But it looks good for Undead. So, okay, that's the end of the game. If we look at the scores, just look at the heroes. By the end of the game, I had level 3 Nova, level 3 Coil. I mean, if you as the Orc player let the Undead player get there, you basically lost the game in general. I mean, you just cannot deal with that. And it's not even that it's so overpowered, it's just that if you're getting nuked, you can't respond to it. Like, you lose your heroes so quickly that you can't deal with that. And that's the real advantage that Undead should take advantage of, is that you can walk into the battle and kill their hero before they can really react to it. Now, if they have computer micro reactant time, they can't actually pull them back. But I would say, just as the Orc player, keep your heroes in the back and put potions on all of them. I mean, the nuke is not absolutely instantaneous. And so, do your best to respond to that. Don't overmix, or if you're going to mix a lot, then expand. I mean, you get an expansion up, then you've got a big advantage. But I think that Wind Riders do work pretty well in this matchup. You just have to get a lot of them. And so it wasn't really the best example of what to do as Orc, but again, that's how you can just crush them as Undead. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for listening to my commentary, and see you soon.